That's right. It's heavy lifting time here with Theo the Juggernaut, and joining me, of course, is Anthony Jacob from NHL Discussion on Instagram. Follow him, smash that like button, check him out. Some of those videos this past week, Anthony, I gotta tell you, awesome. Great moments of discussion, great debates from a lot of the comments. Thanks for joining me this evening. I heard you were able to check out most of Game 1 in Round 3. Let's quickly talk about how Boston was able to take that first game away from Carolina.
Yeah, especially right off the bat, Boston came out strong, and all of a sudden we were thinking, oh no, is Carolina a little rusty from taking a week off? But then they really took over the game for most of the rest of the first and second period. They developed their forecheck on the Bruins, and it seemed like they were really that this was going to be their game, especially with Charlie McAvoy out due to suspension. I thought this was going to be the game that Carolina can take from Boston. But then third period, Hurricanes took a couple questionable penalties. Boston took advantage on the power play. Their top line, their big boys, Bergeron, Marchand, they got it done, and Carolina could never really respond.
So you touched on two very important points. One being, let's talk about this one first. As a fellow hockey player, do you prefer to have less time off when you're on a roll in the playoffs? Or would you rather take that 5-7 day break, get everybody healthy, and then hope for success come Game 1?
Well, in Carolina's case, you look at it, and they had some injured forwards, Andrei Svechnikov, Michael Ferland, their goaltender, Peter Mrazek. They were all hurt in the second round of the playoffs, and so certainly for them, having the extra time off was good. It seems like the first game or so, usually the advantage goes to the team who's battle tested. They just came out of a huge Game 7. Usually they have a bit of advantage. But usually near the end of the series, the rested team is going to start to take the advantage. They're a little more rested. The other team might start to get tired out. So probably want to be the rested team, especially considering you have all the confidence of just sweeping a team. So I'd say rest is better.
I agree with you on that, especially when you look at Carolina, the fact that they took out the Washington Capitals in 7. They take out the Islanders in less games. And you talk about the team that won last year, the team on the ice in round 1, the coach of that team in round 2. And now, you and I talked about this a couple weeks ago with regards to, Boston in round 1, they're really only a one-trick, one-line pony kind of team. And especially with McAvoy out because of suspension, you would think that would be just enough MO for Carolina to begin their ways and really take advantage of this series. However, the veteran qualities of that Bruins offense and defense, and I think, Rask kind of kept them in for most of that game, proves to be a better recipe for success here in round 3.
Yeah, I think so too. It was a little disappointing. I thought Carolina's defense would do a better job of shutting down the Bruins' top line. Now, they were pretty quiet at 5-on-5, Marchand, Bergeron, Pasternak, but as soon as it came to the power play, it was a minute and a half, 2 minutes of constant pressure until they scored or until the power play was over. And so they got to do a better job on the penalty kill. I think they have the personnel to do that. They have Jordan Staal, who's an elite defensive forward. They've got some really good defensemen. So I think they need to execute on the penalty kill, and if they did that, they probably win that game.
You've hit it. You're exactly right, Anthony. It's all about crossing those T's and dotting those I's, finishing that check, and making sure you're on the side of the 1 inch versus on the wrong side of that 1 inch. And speaking of that little battle there, I gotta go back to last night's Game 7 between San Jose and Colorado. Talk about a momentum swing, and just for lack of a better term, a lazy change that. I'm going to put it out there. It cost Colorado Game 7. And it's such a tiny little moment of inches. I'm going to try to get Anthony back here in a sec. Give me 1 sec here.
Customer you have dialed is currently...
So we're going to touch base with Anthony again. You probably lost through the conversation But the bottom line is we got a lot to talk about tonight, only because
I can't take your call at the moment, but if you leave a message.
we'll have to see if we can get him back here in a second. So a little bit of technical difficulty there. Nonetheless, it's a game of inches. Anthony, I have to find out, I have to ask you this one question. The rule of offside and challenging offsides, did it really have to come down to last night's game like that? I mean, clearly he's offside. He has nothing to do with the play. And I need to know, like, is this just the fact that, we're scrutinizing the game too much now?
When this rule came in, I thought it was going to be a pretty good rule. You looked at plays like Matt Duchene, where he was 20, 30 feet offside years ago, and it counted as a goal, and the refs could do nothing about it because they didn't catch it right away. So I thought, okay, that's going to eliminate that. And then all of a sudden, last year's playoffs, I think, is when it really started to become ridiculous. And this rule is now absolutely awful because the point of this rule is to get the calls like Duchene, where it's egregiously offside, not to get it where it's an inch. And especially when in a case like Landeskog, where he has absolutely nothing to do with the play, it's literally a centimeter or two. Whether he's on the bench or not, it doesn't impact the goal whatsoever. And we see that in countless cases all over the league in all sorts of games, that even though he's offside by half a centimeter, maybe he doesn't even touch the puck on that play. Maybe it's 45 seconds later. And I think this rule needs to be changed because it's taking away goals that should be good goals.
Okay, so how would you change? How would you change the rule? I mean, would you consider it saying, okay, if the offside occurs and it's still part of the play, and it's a key factor of that goal being scored, or where do you draw that gray area line? I mean, the rule right now is set that if it's offside, it's called back. Cut and dry, cut and paste, black and white, call it what you want. That is how that rule is in place. And, I mean, if you take a rule like that and you start adding some gray areas and some A's and B's and some C's to it, then you're looking at more subjective understanding of the rule. And I totally agree with you that the rule has to change. But how?
That's an interesting question because the NHL doesn't want to. I don't think they're going to change this rule because the purpose of the rule is to get the calls right. And what they're doing right now is getting the calls right. If it's offside, it's offside. And if it's not a goal, then it's not a goal because they're offside. And so for that reason, I'm not sure the NHL is going to change the rule or take away the coach's challenge because right now they're getting all the calls right. It doesn't feel right. Now, watching Coach's Corner during the first intermission today, Don Cherry was saying that a couple of years ago he had proposed a rule where within about a foot of the benches that it would be like a safe zone. So if a person's changing and they're within a foot of the bench, then the goal would count because this person's sort of out of play. And so I could see them adopting that sort of rule, although this is a play that's 1 in a million. I mean, you don't see this play very often, where players go into the bench and he's caught offside. And so that play, that's one that we may never see in a playoff game again. But in terms of the offside rule in general, I'm not sure they're going to change much because they're getting the calls right, no matter how much the fans are hating it.
So yeah, I mean, like you talk about that 1 foot safe rule. I will put my salary for the rest of these playoffs that if somebody's coming for a change, you're going to expect someone on your team to open that gate for you and get you off the ice pronto. Would you agree with me on that? Because Landeskog just basically waiting for the door to get open. Why he didn't jump the boards, I have no idea. I mean, a lot of NHLers don't jump when they come off. They jump when they come on the ice. But having that said, he's waiting for like almost 2 to 3 seconds to just get off the ice. And why he didn't have any help to get off baffles my mind. Secondly, you talk about that 1 foot space or that 1 foot grace rule. Yeah, if someone's coming off for a change, absolutely. I mean, don't they're not part of the play. They're not including the play. And if they were going to be an issue, then they'd be calling it too many men on the ice call, right? So that negates that part of it as well, which is why I can bring back that same question. If that play is a definitive part of that scoring opportunity that leads to a goal, then yeah, call the goal back. But if you got somebody that's going for a lazy change, then maybe, you know what, yeah, you're being lazy. You deserve to be penalized for that. No goal. And, I mean, you're right. The NHL will probably not change this rule because, yeah, they're getting the call right. They want to see as much calls being corrected because, yes, in all sports, no matter what sport you're playing, there is a form of judging and there's going to be a part of human error. That is why sport is sport. Any sports psychologist will tell you that. You go to any undergrad program in the universities, degrees, or colleges, they will tell you that every sport will have a part of human error. And in this scenario, we see after every goal, correct me if I'm wrong, Anthony, but you see either a head coach, an assistant coach, or someone upstairs immediately looking at that instant replay and trying to figure out, is somebody offside? So before we're even having a chance to congratulate the player, everybody's looking at iPads or tablets or whatever to see whether or not that play should be called back and it should be no goal. And I find that part a little bit discouraging because it takes away from the battle and the culture.
Yeah, I think so too, because especially as a fan, I think when you see the other team or your team score, and then all of a sudden you just have to hold off with your celebrating for a minute because you're like, well, is that actually going to count? And it seems like on almost every single goal, like you said, the coach is looking over at the iPad. Is it going to be a goal? Is it not? And it seems like so many crucial and goals that should be exciting are all of a sudden tamed down because you don't want to celebrate too early. And but for Colorado, it's tough because it's tough that this came down to their season on a play like this, and for Landeskog not to hop the boards, for someone not to open the gate for him, the goalie, anyone else who's sitting on the bench. Well, you can put the blame on them, but at the end of the day, it was just a lazy play, and it was a bit of a brain fart on all their parts, and it may have cost them their season.
It did cost them their season. I mean, you look at that, and a minute and a half later, San Jose goes up 3-1. And, it was an amazing scramble the last minute and 9, I believe it was, that Colorado had. And they had three really good chances in that last minute. And, I mean, we've said, Jones has to be just good enough for San Jose to win. And he did just that in the last 2 series. And now they're taking on another team in St. Louis who, has the most Canadians on it. But secondly, is facing an extremely hot goaltender that will steal a game or two. And does San Jose have enough offensive prowess, now that they got Joe Pa back, can they put the puck behind Binnington to win a third series?
I think they're definitely going to have the offense. We saw it with Joe Pavelski back. He had a big night last night, goal and assist. Timo Meier, Thomas Hertl, they've really broken out these playoffs. And up and down that lineup, there's lots of threats to score. And like you touched on before, Martin Jones was just good enough for them to win in the first 2 series. But during the regular season, he was it was sort of the same thing, but he was also costing them some games too. And so his save percentage was up quite a bit in the playoffs from the regular season, and you certainly wonder, is that going to hold up? Is that going to hold up for another series that he's playing better than he has all season long? And so for San Jose, I think they're going to score enough. It's just a matter if Martin Jones is going to play well enough to keep them in the series.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Donskoy scores last night the first time in forever. Pavelski back on the ice gets 2 points. You're starting to see Burns become more part of the play and finding those seams. Carlson's moving the puck up. Vlasic scores 2 goals in one game during that series. A lot of different offensive parts are coming alive for San Jose. And you look at St. Louis's roster, I'm waiting for Alex Dean to come out of the shell somehow. I mean, here's a guy in round one that was not demoted to the fourth line, but was asked to play a better or a different role in the fourth line, being a shutdown guy. And in the second round, he was given a little bit more free reign, but wasn't able to do anything offensively. I expect him to do something better, unless he's injured, in the third round. And I think, when you look at both of these teams, I think St. Louis should be a little bit better than San Jose, only because of their goaltending. And I think they've got better offensive weapons. Don't ask me why I say that. I'm just saying it.
I don't disagree with you either, especially they have three lines who can score. In Game 7, it was their third line that was incredible. Robert Thomas, the rookie, he's turning into a budding star, and what he's done with Tyler Bozak and Patrick Maroon on their third line, they scored the Game 7 double OT winner. That was great to see Patrick Maroon in the moment with his son after the game and all that. But, St. Louis, I like their attack up front, too. With those three lines, you got O'Reilly and Vladimir Tarasenko, who he's had a bit of a quiet playoffs. I think he has one even-strength goal. But St. Louis has had potent enough offense without Tarasenko going off. And so then if all of a sudden Tarasenko starts scoring in this series, I think San Jose's in a world of hurt.
I do. I mean, the waking of the giant, so to speak, in Vlad Tarasenko. I mean, Schwartz has got his wheels back, which is great. You see homeboy Patty Maroon doing what he does best in front of the net. And I thought he was one of those guys that St. Louis at the trade deadline was thinking about moving, but they're very happy that they didn't. And he is a guy that's playing a lot of different roles, and he's that chemistry guy that's making that team move well.
Yeah, they definitely were considering moving him at the deadline. Certainly they're lucky they didn't, but you can't blame them because he really did struggle at the start of the season. He became a healthy scratch at times, but he's proved to be a very important player for them in the playoffs. You look at what he does along the boards. He wins every battle. He's a monster on the forecheck, and he has some finishing ability too. So he's become a key ingredient to the St. Louis Blues playoff run for sure.
So do you see this series going another 7 games?
Well, San Jose's had 2 straight Game 7s. Are they going to run out of gas, especially with all the veterans on their team? Can they really make it to 7 again? I see St. Louis coming out on top in this one. It's been such a miraculous run since they were last place on January 1st. And I think they're going to continue. Jordan Binnington, he's going to continue his great play. Their defense, Alex Pietrangelo, he's back to Norris Trophy form after a rough start to his season. I love what they have up front. I love what they have everywhere. And San Jose, it's just Jones, that question mark in net. I think that's going to be the difference maker, really.
My heart goes out to Jumbo Joe because he hasn't been there. And that's probably one of the only reasons why I'd like to see him and Bernsey get to the finals. But like you said, St. Louis has got a more balanced attack, and I think their defense, Parayko, Gunnarsson, Pietrangelo, those 3 heavy horses can really carry a team. And I really, like I said, Braden Shen and Alex Steen have got a lot of room to really pick their game up a lot in this third round. So we've touched on the West. We've touched on the East a little bit. What is Boston? Of the 4 teams, you think about it, in the East, both the East teams have won Stanley Cups. In the West, neither team has won a Stanley Cup. Does that make a difference, or does that throw out of the equation here after what we've seen in the first 2 rounds of this Stanley Cup playoff?
Well, for the organization and for the NHL, it's certainly always a big time when a team could potentially win their first Stanley Cup, just for creating a new fan base and a new hockey market. But in the sense of does it give a team an advantage? I don't think so. You look at Boston and San Jose; they're both very, very experienced teams. San Jose, they've gone to the Cup final. They have as much experience as anyone in the NHL, even though they haven't won a Stanley Cup. and I don't think that's going to make that much of a difference. If anything, it just puts more fire in the belly of Joe Thornton, who, as great of a career as he has had, he's not a frontline player anymore. Sure, he's an impact player. He's not a frontline player. But anyways, the rest of their team, they're so experienced. Same with the Bruins. I don't think it's going to give an advantage to the teams that have already won the Cup. But certainly, yeah.
So you think St. Louis is going to come out?
I think out of the Western Conference Final, I think it's going to be St. Louis. Out of the East, I'm not so sure. It's all going to come down to whether the Hurricanes' defense can shut down the Bruins' top line, and I'm not sure they're going to be able to do that after watching Game 1.
Yeah, I think it's that Carolina's that enigma or the kryptonite or whatever you want to call it. They are that. I mean, the funny stat of the week for Carolina has been that every time they make it to the playoffs, they make it past the first and second rounds. Like, they're that team. They don't make it often, but when they do, they go all the way. So
yeah, totally. It seems like every time they're in the playoffs, they're going deep. I think it's been the last 4 times they've made the playoffs since 2002. They've made it to the Eastern Conference Final every single time. But I like this Carolina team too, and I don't think we should be discounting them for losing Game 1 because they did dominate play for most of the game. And one other thing for Carolina is their power play really struggled in the second round. They were 1 for 13, and so if the Bruins power play is going to be scoring, they need their power play going too.
Okay, so it's going to be special teams that's going to pull that team out of the East, and I agree with you on that too. I mean, if you can just find a way to shut down Marchand and keep calm and Bergeron and Pasternak. I mean, Krejci hasn't done much, but I mean, the bottom line is you got to have a balanced scoring, and I think you're right. Carolina's got a lot of guys that people don't know about, and maybe that's working to their advantage.
I think so too. You look at someone like Brock McGinn on their third line. I think he's had a spectacular playoffs as an up-and-coming power forward who can score. And up and down that lineup, they have goal scorers. Michael Furlan comes back into the lineup. He's on their fourth line. He adds some scoring depth. Andrei Svechnikov comes back. He's on their first line with Sebastian Aho and Teuvo Teravainen. And I think people say perhaps Carolina lacks that front-end talent. And I don't think so. When you look at Teravainen and Aho, I think they're just as skilled as any other team has up front.
You're right. Okay. So I look forward to watching these conference finals. I really do think that there's going to be some more storylines coming out of here, especially when it comes down to the goaltending aspects and whether or not there's going to be that quote-unquote unsung hero that's going to light the lamp for any of these 4 teams. I want to thank you, Anthony, for joining me. What else is on the agenda for you in NHL Discussion this upcoming couple weeks?
Well, we're just going to be going over the conference finals, and in a couple weeks we're going to start displaying our draft rankings, which I'm pretty excited about. Pretty big on that, and Western Conference, Eastern Conference Final, draft rankings coming up. That's pretty much it.
Right on. So, I understand you're also a bit of a baseball fan. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So, are we watching the Blue Jays, or who are we watching?
Yeah, Blue Jays. Certainly the playoffs have taken over for baseball a bit lately, but certainly developmental season for the Blue Jays. Vladdy Jr. finally comes up. He struggled a bit, but we shouldn't be concerned about that because we know the all-world talent that he has. And so it's going to be an exciting season to watch some of their up-and-coming players play, but right now certainly playoffs has priority for NHL.
Do you think Vlad Jr., has enough? I know he's got the talent, and I know he's got the power, and I know he's got an amazing and exciting upside, but do you think there's too much pressure on this young kid?
Well, just for us criticizing him after 40 at-bats or whatever he's had at the major league level, there's a lot of pressure on him. But that being said, I'm not sure there's any more pressure than there ever has been on him. What was it when he was 15, 16 years old. The Blue Jays are signing to $1 million contract already, and just the pressure to live up to something like that for $1 million when you're 15, 16 years old, I think the pressure is insane there. And as much as just getting adjusted to major league pitching, you can tell that the pitchers are they're really giving Vladdy a hard time. They're pitching, pitches. He has one of the lowest pitches inside the zone out of any hitter for what he's getting at the plate, and it's taking a while to adjust, but I'm sure it's going to come. I don't think there's too much pressure on him because he's a generational talent and a generational prospect coming up, and I think all of a sudden things are going to click, and we're not going to be talking about pressure. We're going to be talking about Rookie of the Year. We're going to be talking about how he's one of the best third basemen in the league soon enough.
Yeah, I mean, it's he was playing. Was he playing second and third this past week? I mean, an amazing talent. I mean, like, I've watched his father play for years. He was one of my favorite players, the Impaler, and the way he could throw the ball and the way he could hit the ball, the way he would hit the ball off tees. It bounces 4 feet in front of the home plate there, and he's just smacking out of the yard. So I think, or I should know, the Blue Jays did a good thing by keeping Vlad Jr. Where he is to see him develop, and I think he's got a big bright side ahead of him. Do I see the Blue Jays making the playoffs? Probably not. But the other side that's pretty amazing is how well their starting pitching did out of the gate in the first 30 games here. Because, I mean, yeah, they're close to just under 500, but their starting pitching has done lights out work unexpectedly.
Certainly it has. You look at Marcus Stroman, Aaron Sanchez, and Matt Shoemaker. They're all near the top of the league in ERA, and it was disappointing when Matt Shoemaker, it was announced that he's going to be out for the rest of the year. I believe that was a knee injury. And Aaron Sanchez started having some blister problems again, some finger problems. But Marcus Stroman, he's been pitching lights out. Last few starts a little more shaky, but those numbers have to come back down to earth at some point. And certainly I hope that there's been lots of conversation that the Blue Jays are going to be trading Aaron Sanchez or Marcus Stroman before the trade deadline to get some young players. But I think if you're trading Marcus Stroman or Aaron Sanchez, what you're getting in those prospects is you're getting prospects who you hope turn it back into someone like Marcus Stroman. And prospects at the MLB level, they're almost lottery tickets. You have a small chance that that player is going to turn into something big. And so, in my opinion, they should sign Marcus Stroman or Aaron Sanchez, mostly Stroman because of he's been healthier. I think they should sign him to a long-term contract extension, and he should be their ace going forward because as great as his pitching has been, they're older pitchers, and they don't really have anyone coming up from the minor leagues in terms of pitching, and so I think they need one or two veteran guys locked up long-term to show the young guys the ropes in pitching.
You're absolutely correct. I mean, you got to restock the stables once in a while, and this might be a good thing. I do agree if you had to expend one of them, I would expend Sanchez only because of his injuries, and I've rarely seen pitchers have issues with blisters like this. But at the same time, other teams know this already too, so is he going to be damaged goods? Only time will tell. Anthony with NHL Discussion. Find him on Instagram. Smash that like. Smash the follows. I really appreciate your discussion this evening. We look forward to doing it when we have only 2 teams remaining, and we can really dive into all of those storylines and see where those new storylines have developed. Thanks so much, Anthony.
Thank you, Theo.
Right on. This has been Heavy Lifting with the Juggernaut and Anthony Jacob from NHL Discussion. We will talk to you guys very soon. Thanks for joining us, and have a great rest of your evening.